What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the online JAMILY? Jamiroquai 2000 here with yet another episode of the QUAICAST JAMILY podcast, all the latest Jamiroquai news. And for these upcoming new few episodes of the QUAICAST, I'm going to be doing some read-throughs of some of my over 16 Jamiditorial releases that I've released over the last 2 years for the benefit of the online JAMILY. Now, for anybody who doesn't know about my Jamiditorial series of writings, I kind of took a play of the word jam and editorial and decided to start a series of nearly 2 years talking and writing about, in op-ed form, many topicalities of Jamiroquai over the last 30 years of their history. And I came up with a great idea that I thought I'd do some read-throughs of some of those 16 Jamiditorial releases I've so far released to the Jamily over the last near 2 years on my Instagram, which is at Jamirfan2000. In this first Jamiditorial read-through, I'm going to be doing a read-through of my first Jamiditorial release, simply titled Blue-Eyed Quicksilver Through the Sunglasses, The Tragic Loss and Musical Legacy of the late Toby Smith. And like I said, this Jamitorial release is available through my Instagram if you would like to read it in its entirety. For those who want an audio version, I'm going to do a read-through of that said first Jamitorial release I released nearly 2 years ago about the late Toby Smith. Here we go. Lennon and McCartney, Simon and Garfunkel, Toppin and John, just to name a few of the great songwriting duos in popular musical history. There's another pair who, in my opinion, deserve to be part of that top echelon of pop songwriting, at least for their generation. Kay and Smith. The songs of those two gentlemen they were able to write together, supported amongst the array of multi-talented musicians throughout the ever-changing band lineup. In their cumulative 10 years together within the space of 5 Jamiroquai album cycle composing lineage were thought-provoking, evocative reality attending, and socially conscious self-examinations of the human condition and our place in the world. Toby Smith, a jazzy, crispy-haired, blue-eyed piano and composition virtuoso, came from the humble beginnings and slowly became one of the most important cornerstones of the emerging London acid jazz musical movement of the early 1990s. Even though his shyness was veiled by the uncanny ability to create killer hooks, melodies, and lyrics through a pair of well-placed sunglasses in the live arena, even the great Stevie Wonder could learn a thing or two from Toby on his slender and slinky finger-playing sachet across his tinkling of the ivories during the early blisteringly bustling kinetic funk and soul parlayed from those lucky young crowds of musical fans at Jamiroquai shows between the years of 1992 through 2002. The first two albums of Jamiroquai's discography, 1993's Mercy on Planet Earth, and of course 1994's Return of the Space Cowboy, saw J.K. and Toby setting such a high bar of lyrical creativity and awareness of the scary constructs of man versus their environment, and then in turn, man versus man. No other band had set their aim at changing the world for the better through their emerging music more than Jamiroquai, or were able to set the example for the rest of the music industry to be influenced or to take the notice to kickstart a whole new generation of potent protest music. Then with 1996 monumental mainstream musical crossover for Jamiroquai with their album Traveling on Moving, they said goodbye to their acid jazz route and platinum albums selling activist albums and moved into the discotheque. Jamiroquai would become the toast of the world's party, parlaying an intoxicating mixture of their modified melange of funk, R&B, soul, disco into a bewilderingly dance-frenzied albums 1999 synchronized through 2001's A Funk Odyssey. Toby Smith would unfortunately end up leaving Jamiroquai amicably in 2002 due to family commitments, but this would only be the turning of a chapter for him. This time he would impart and bestow his music-making magic onto the fruitful world of music productions of other emerging musical artists. After the Jamiroquai departure, Toby would settle into music production from his self-founded Angelic Studios and help artists the likes of The Hoosiers, Jamie Scott, Absent Elk, and Matt Carty producing their music, albums, and even co-writing alongside them. One choice album that deserves a big mention is the Hoosiers' 2007 album, The Trick of Life, which really showcased the amazing music-producing talent of Toby Smith. The shimmering, playful lyrics and the impeccable instrumentation really brought out the best in the band. If you listen to this album carefully, you can hear the creative musical magic that Toby Smith had contributed in his 10 years with Jamiroquai. But everyone who had the opportunity to work with Toby Smith would remember his generosity, his openness in fulfilling their musical vision of their album work, and his unbridled support structure he had always provided. April 13th, 2017, a date that would catch the music industry and the community of musicians and fans completely off guard. It was right at the beginning of the eighth Jamiroquai album era, beginning of the Futura Funk era of the new album from Jamiroquai, Automaton, when the unfortunate news of the passing of former Jamiroquai band member Toby Smith started to make the rounds online and then later on confirmed. Toby had been sick 5 years prior, being diagnosed with cancer, but respecting his own and the family's privacy, keeping it secret till the very end. His sudden passing shocked, saddened, and, at least in regards to the online JAMILY Jamiroquai fans, left us all in disbelief. I myself felt motivated, like so many others, from friends to his fellows in the music industry, to pay our respects and memorials and tributes on social media throughout that ill-fated day. A couple years after his passing, in 2020, Toby Smith's alma mater, Marlborough College, would produce a musical tribute remembrance concert in his honor entitled "The Celebration of the Individual," which had a companion film retrospecting back on his musical career, featuring musicians and friends, which I had the honor of myself contributing pictures and videos to from his years in Jamiroquai. Quantifying the multifaceted musical legacy of Toby Smith for the 47 years he was on this earth, has been hard for me to articulate in an op-ed format of his 47 years on planet Earth. He was an invaluable cornerstone of one of the most important moments in pop musical activism of the modern era, through melody, instrumentation, and lyrical prowess. His lyrical work with Jamiroquai alone explored humanity more than any other band of their time, and then later on establishing himself as one of the most important emerging musical producers in the worldwide musical industry. All I and everyone else can do is marvel at everything he was able to leave us to be inspired, engaged, and influenced in our own potential of music making in our own right. Toby truly was a musical maverick, and as I lovingly enshrined in the title of this and many other Jamiditorials to come, he really showed us all the rarefied musical Quicksilver in his blue eyes through those sunglasses. We miss you desperately, and Godspeed, Tobe. And that is my first Jamitorial release I released nearly 2 years ago of a very long series simply titled Blue-Eyed Quicksilver Through the Sunglasses, the Tragic Loss and Musical Legacy of the late Toby Smith of Jamiroquai. And if you would like to read this in your entirety, as I aforementioned at the beginning of this episode of the QUAICAST, you can I put a link to it on my Instagram. You can read all the pages of in your own time down in the description area of this episode of the QUAICAST JAMILY podcast down below upon its upload on Spotify. And if you'd like to read more of my Jamiditorials, be sure to subscribe to my Instagram at JamiroFan2000. And hopefully this will be the beginning of a series of me doing more read-throughs of the other 15 Jamiditorial releases of various topicality about Jamiroquai that I've released over the last 2 years. But as always, this is JamiroFan2000. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you again really soon with more content here on the QUAICAST JAMILY podcast. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I'll see you around. Take care.